When I started running, I thought it was all about running more volume, more intensity, and more sacrifice. But after running over 50 marathons, 10 ultras, and a few bad injuries later, I realized it's not about doing more, it's about doing it better. So in this video, I'll share the 9 things that I guarantee will make you a better runner. The habits that made me stronger, faster, and made me actually enjoy running again. Let's get into it. So let's start with something that can literally change your running form in seconds. And it's all about the hips, specifically your pelvic tilt. Most beginners run with an anterior pelvic tilt like this, due to tight hip flexors and years of sitting. Elite runners understand the importance of using their posterior chain, basically everything that's on your backside. These muscles are much larger than your small hip flexors and quads, and they are a much better engine for your running. Most beginners do the opposite. They run from the front, overusing their quads and hip flexors. That's why you see a lot of runners hunched forward, overstriding, and burning out way too fast. Number 2 is directly tied to what we just talked about, the muscles that actually help you propel yourself forward. So how do you train the posterior chain? Most runners do strength training, but not the kind that actually matters for running. You shouldn't do assisted machines. Instead, here are 3 movements that actually activate your hamstrings, glutes, and calves. The first one is called a crab lift. Place your hands just behind your hips, fingertips pointing forwards, and lift your butt off the floor. From here, drive your hips up as high as you can and hold for a second before lowering down slowly. Do 3 sets of 10 reps after your runs and you'll start feeling your glutes actually doing something when you run. The second one is less about strength and more about mind-muscle connection, training your body to understand posture and pelvic tilt. Get into a lunge position and slowly tilt your pelvis from anterior to posterior, back and forth. You'll feel a good stretch on the hip flexor of your back leg. And the third one is probably the best exercise for a runner's posterior chain, the single leg deadlift. Ground one foot, hips square, and slowly bend forward. Your extended leg should be parallel to the ground. Kiss the floor with your hands and move back up. This is a great warm-up before a run, and you can add weight to it at the gym for strength and stability. Let's move on. Number 3 completely changed my running. Not just how efficient I run, but more importantly, how my knees and hips feel afterwards. And that's cadence, the number of steps you take every minute. When I started running, I thought long strides made me faster. I mean, it looks faster, right? Big, powerful steps. It turns out it's completely wrong. What matters is the number of steps you take, not how long they are. Most beginners run at around 150, 160 steps per minute. Elites at 180. And the reason why that matters is simple: efficiency. So let me demonstrate that with some simple shapes. Imagine 2 runners, a rectangle and an octagon. Both are going at the exact same speed. The octagon just takes more steps to get there. So what are the differences? Now, first thing you notice is the stride length. Notice how the rectangle has much longer strides than the octagon. And if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. Your pace is simply the number of steps you take, so your cadence times your stride length. So if your stride length is shorter, that means you need to take more steps in order to keep the same speed. The second difference we can notice is the amount of vertical movement. Notice how the rectangle moves more vertically in the air. And again, that makes a lot of sense, right? If your strides are longer, that means you need to spend more time in the air on every step, which means you have to jump higher. Now, if you've been running a little bit, especially longer distances, you know that running is all about getting from A to B in the most efficient way. So spending a lot of time and energy in vertical movement is not getting you from A to B. So it's kind of wasted energy. And the third most important difference between the rectangle and the octagon is the vertical impact. This is directly tied to your injuries. Notice how the rectangle folds over much harder than the octagon. Again, that makes sense if you think about it. If your strides are shorter and you spend less time in vertical movement, then you're going to have a softer landing. So the octagon is not only more efficient, he's also more injury safe. So keep up your cadence. Try to be at around 170 steps per minute. Each running watch in the world actually counts the number of steps really closely and really well, because each arm swing corresponds to 1 step, right? Now let's get to the next one. Number 4 is again tied to what we just talked about, foot resilience. Every stride starts with your feet. They're the first point of contact with the ground, and they decide how the rest of your body reacts. Your body is a kinetic chain, a network of joints, muscles, ligaments, and tendons that all move together to create motion. Think of it like a line of dominoes. If one piece is off, the whole pattern breaks. So if the base of that chain, your feet, isn't strong, the rest of your body will pay the price. Most runners skip foot strength completely. Some get away with it because they weigh 50 kilos and float above the ground. But if you're a bit heavier, whether that's muscle or fat, you need to make sure that your base can handle all that load. The first muscles to look at are the intrinsic foot muscles. They're the small, stabilizing muscles that control your arch, balance, and foot stiffness during running and walking. We have 21 of them in our feet. Then the tibialis anterior, the one in the front of your shin. It's your braking system. Every time your foot lands, that muscle slows you down and absorbs the impact. On the other side, you've got the calf complex. And deep underneath that, the soleus. The soleus is one of the muscles in your posterior chain responsible to propel yourself forward efficiently. So here are 3 simple exercises you can do at home to make your feet bulletproof. So let's start with the intrinsic foot muscles. And the simplest way to train all of these are towel curls. Simply place a towel under your foot and try to pull that towel towards you. If you have weak or flat feet, this will build the foundation. Then tibialis raises. Stand with your back against the wall. Heels about 15 centimeters away and lift your toes towards your shins. You can elevate your heels slightly for more range of motion. Go slow, control the movement, and feel that burn in the front of your shins. For soleus raises, turn around, stand on one foot and bend your knees slightly. Heels on the floor, lift them up by pressing through your toes. This hits the soleus really well. The most underrated running muscle out there. Same thing as for tibialis raises, you can make it harder by adding weight. But strengthening your feet isn't the only way to build a solid foundation. The shoes you wear play just as big of a role. I used to buy shoes purely for style, and that was a big mistake. I used to think that all the shoes were basically doing the same thing, just at different price points. But drop, the amount of cushioning, flexibility, arch support, all of these things are crucial. To show you what I mean, here is a minimal running shoe. This one mimics barefoot running. There is almost no cushioning, it's very flexible, there's no arch support, and it's super light. This, on the other hand, is a maximal running shoe. It has a lot of cushioning, it's very sturdy, it is heavier than a minimal running shoe. Now, why is this important? Well, maximal running shoes will let you be lazy. Thick cushioning absorbs impact, work that your tibialis and your soleus muscles were supposed to do. Arch support gives you stability artificially, meaning that your intrinsic foot muscles can be lazy. So over a long period of time, if you're not aware of all these little things, your feet will get weaker. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should ditch amazing running shoes and go barefoot. What I'm saying is awareness is key. Know what you're wearing and let your shoes support your progress, not replace it. Now let's move from the external habits, the shoes, the muscles, to the internal habits, what happens inside your body, starting with breathing. How you're breathing while you run has a huge impact on how you're feeling because it's directly tied to your nervous system. So there's a trick you can use to calm yourself down and feel more relaxed when you run. It's called deep belly breathing. Simply breathe in through your nose, feel your belly and lower back expand, and then breathe out. I usually like to breathe this way on 3 counts. 3 steps to breathe in, then 3 steps to breathe out. This type of breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your calm, relaxed side. You'll feel your heart rate drop, your shoulders release, and your whole body soften. That's the system you want active for easy runs and long endurance work. But running is a cardiovascular sport. That means if you want to become a better runner, you'll have to improve your cardiovascular fitness. And cardiovascular fitness is best represented by a simple triangle. The base of your triangle is your aerobic fitness, all the stuff you do at a low heart rate. The peak of your triangle, the vertical, is your VO2 max, everything you do at a high heart rate. Now everybody's triangle looks different. Some have a triangle that has a wide base and a low peak. Others have triangles with a very high peak and a slow base. What matters is not the shape of the triangle, but the total surface area inside. The bigger your surface area, the higher your cardiovascular fitness. Now here's the problem. If you only do slow heart rate stuff and never touch intensity, your triangle will look flat, a big base and no peak. But if you're that person that does HIIT sessions, spinning classes and weekly interval sessions, your triangle flips. It will have a high peak but no base. And even though you feel fit, because everything that you're doing is hard, your aerobic foundation is actually tiny. You're just really good at suffering. So here's the one rule that almost every elite runner follows, the 80-20 rule. 80% of your run should be aerobic. That's long runs, easy runs, recovery runs. And 20% should be anaerobic. That's the tempo runs, the interval sessions, and the hill sessions. Practically speaking, all of that means 1 hard session per week. The rest should be slow enough that you can have a conversation while you're running. And that's what's going to build your actual endurance. Which brings me to the next thing that I wish I'd known when I was starting. Not all of these runs require the same type of fuel. The best way to explain this concept is yet with another graph. So the x-axis is the level of intensity and the y-axis is what type of energy you use for the exercise. At a low heart rate, you mostly use fats to go forward. The faster you go, the more carbs will be used to fuel your workout. Now, why is this important? Fats take a long time to digest and break down by your body, but are essential for slow heart rate training. So practically, this means that long before you run, you should eat some fats. Olive oil, avocado, nuts, or other healthy fats. Just before you run, you can have a quick carb snack that's going to fuel your higher intensity during that workout. A banana, an apple, or a kiwi. And after you run, you should eat protein. Protein will rebuild your fibers that you broke down during the exercise. I have a full video on what to eat at what time that I'll link somewhere up here. This goes into all the details, how you should run if you want to maintain and build muscle as a runner. So click on that if you're interested. And last but not least, the one thing that's arguably the most important, which is learning to enjoy the process and learning how to enjoy running. Because if you can do that, then everything else we talked about in this video will get easier. And sometimes I know it's difficult. When it's cold and wet outside, we don't want to go on a run. But what really helped me in the past is thinking of all these people in the world that would give anything to trade places with you and go for a run instead of being in a train commuting in high traffic, instead of going to war, or just instead of being in their wheelchair because they can't go on a run, because they're sick, or because they have to take care of their parents who are sick, or some situation that doesn't allow them to actually take time for themselves and do something for their health. And when I think of these people, it makes it much easier to put on my shoes and go on a run. I hope this helped. Thanks all for watching. Stay wilding. Peace.